Cowboys Pregame Live is brought to you by AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full and condensed game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl.
For the third time in the first 4 weeks of the NFL season, the doors at AT&T Stadium are wide open. The Dallas Cowboys at 2-1, welcoming in the Washington Commanders, a third straight win and an eighth straight win against the NFC East is on the line this afternoon. 12 o'clock kickoff on Fox, but we're here from the Star in Frisco. This is Cowboys Pregame Live, presented by WinStar World Casino and Resorts. Alongside Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Glad you're with us. And gentlemen, it's another NFC East battle. The division is very much so up for grabs, even with Philadelphia up at the top of it at a 3-0 record. But Barry, divisional rivalries just hit a little bit different, but the Cowboys have been taking advantage early.
Yeah, they've been taking advantage of early, and to me, it's Cooper Rush. I mean, so far this season, this guy has been outstanding, extremely efficient out there. He has a 91.7 quarterback rating. The moment never seems too big for this guy. He's cool, calm, and collected, and you balance that with that balanced offense that they've been having so far, and to me, that's a recipe for success.
Divisional rivals change absolutely everything. These guys are now in the building, and I want to see how these guys are going to respond. You got the Washington Commanders coming in wearing their all-black alternate uniforms. They think they're going to come into AT&T Stadium and show these guys up. And we're going to see what these Cowboys are about today.
I'm with you. The balance that they've had on offense is great. The offensive line have been meshing well and playing great. As long as Cooper Rush stay cool, calm, collected, we got an opportunity to do something big.
Well, let's talk about Cooper Rush, because 2 wins in a row for the Cowboys. They're trying to continue that momentum today, but it has been behind the steady hand of Cooper Rush. It hasn't gone over the top, but he hasn't necessarily backed off either, and he's done a fantastic job. How does he keep that going today?
Simple. He does what he's been doing these past 2 games, and that's having 0 turnovers out there. When you have 0 turnovers, you're taking care of the football. You're leaning on your offense to help, or you're leaning on your run game, to help set up that passing game out there. And to me, like I said earlier, that's a great recipe for a guy like Cooper Rush. Kellen Moore's done a great job of putting a game plan together to highlight his strengths. And Cooper Rush, he's been doing a fantastic job of executing that plan.
I'm going to double down on you, BC. Just play within your abilities. Don't step outside yourself. Don't try to do more. Don't listen to all the murmurs and all the noise that's on the outside telling you how amazing you've been doing, how great you are, because that's when you start trying to be, jack of all trades. Make the plays that Kellen Moore set up for you. Put your team in a position to be successful. And like you said, BC, rely on your ground game.
It's called play action pass. And as long as you got a run game going and kicking like it's been doing, just keep doing that right there and stay within yourself.
Looking to become the first Cowboys quarterback to win his first 4 career starts. He's joined with Roger Staubach and Jason Garrett as the only 2 to do it through the first 3 starts in Cowboys history. They've got a familiar face that they're facing at the quarterback position on the other side of the line of scrimmage as well, and that's Carson Wentz. He's played 8 times against the Dallas Cowboys, all of those with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's had statistical success, but he's 4-4. Pretty even matchup between Wentz and the Cowboys previously. But what does he bring to the table that's different now that he's a part of the Commanders?
Well, look, I'm going to start it off right. He's about to be 4-5, Kyle. All right, he's about to be 4-5 out there. But like you said, this guy's been hot and cold. When he's hot, he can be one of the better quarterbacks in the National Football League. The only problem with that is he hasn't been hot so far this season. That offensive line has pretty much given up on him, I think. I mean, you look at it, the guy's running for his life out there. So to me, if this front 7 for the Dallas Cowboys can continue to get after Carson Wentz, it'll be a long day for my man.
I don't disagree with you, BC, but they have to still respect this guy. He is the only quarterback that has 14 touchdowns against the Cowboys since he's came into the league. Also, he's only one of 4 quarterbacks in the league that has 800-plus yards passing this year and 7+ touchdowns. So even though he hasn't been hot, he's still one of the best quarterbacks statistically in the league.
This guy, like you say, 2 games, 300 yards, but what he will do is throw you that pick. Play your position, stay in your space, and play within yourself, and you'll get this kid.
Isaiah, you play the quarterback position. I kind of want to compare him to Daniel Jones, quarterback that the Cowboys played last week. Daniel Jones a little bit more mobile. Carson Wentz is going to stay in the pocket. He has the ability to escape if you really need him to. But how are they different from last week to this week, and how is Dan Quinn going to challenge him?
I'm not sure that they're that much different, honestly, unless Washington could get the ground game going. If they can get Gibson going on the ground, then he becomes a lot more of a threat because you have to respect him in that regard. But up to date, I mean, he's given up the most sacks in the league this year. So Dallas Cowboys should be licking their chops.
They should be licking their chops. And if they take a page out of that Philadelphia playbook, where Philadelphia was getting pressure with just their 4 people. And they left the rest of their defense back there in the secondary to make the waters murky back there for Wentz to throw the football. So if Dan Quinn can get that 4-man rush going, it's going to be a long day for Mr. Wentz.
This is probably the wrong person to ask, but Nate, you're an offensive lineman. You're offensive lineman by trade. Is it sometimes on the quarterback to be sacked 9 times in one game like Carson Wentz was last week?
Yeah, he held the ball a couple of times, but this offensive line has not been good. This kid has been under duress, and that's what we got to continue to do, have success in putting pressure on him.
And, of course, the run game for Washington can help ease the pressure a little bit for Carson Wentz and that Commanders offense. Ezekiel Elliott could have that same impact for the Dallas Cowboys as well. Can the Cowboys continue to run the football with Ezekiel Elliott, and what kind of impact will he have this week at AT&T Stadium when we come back here on Cowboys Pregame Live?
Yeah, it's always tough after a Monday night game, especially a road one with long travel and stuff. Luckily it's a division opponent, so you're familiar with them a little bit. That helps the prep. But yeah, we're gonna have to get ready. They're gonna come in here ready to go on a noon game. It's gonna come fast. We kind of talked about it all week, so we're gonna have to be ready.
How much control have you been allowed by the coaches at the line of scrimmage, and how have you tried to use that?
Yeah, it's a lot of our offense. A lot of our game is the QB kind of making decisions up there, and it's kind of been business as usual. It's like kind of how Kellen rolls, and he trusts me and trusts Dak, and having that good relationship helps with that stuff.
When you think of when they let you go and they wanted to bring you back, was any part of you saying, well, you didn't want me the first time, why do you want me now? Was there any of that going through your mind?
At that point, you kind of just wanted to get back in a building, no matter where it was, and obviously being here, a fortunate situation, knowing Kellen, knowing a lot of the guys, knowing the staff, and so it was obviously a good fit. And at that point, you just want to get back in, piece squad on the team, whatever worked, because once you're in, at least you have a chance.
And how much do you look at your path to this as a survivor, that that maybe you could have given up and said time to go, whatever, you got your degree in, and go do that?
Yeah, I think that experience helped for sure. You learned a lot mentally, how to deal with things, and there's stories like that all around NFL locker rooms. It's kind of what this league's about, is you're going to get knocked down, and it's about coming back, learning from it, and moving on.
This segment is brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
9 career rushing touchdowns for Ezekiel Elliott against Washington, which is actually tied for the most against any NFL team throughout his NFL career. Now, keep that in mind as he tries to add to that and get to double digits for the first time against an opponent as they face the Washington Commanders today. Welcome back into Cowboys Pregame Live. Let's go out to AT&T Stadium and hear from Rob Phillips on the sideline. And Rob, I just mentioned Ezekiel Elliott chasing a new career high against the team. How much do you feel like Dallas is going to rely on the run game this afternoon?
As much as they can, Kyle. I think as much as they can. You guys touched on it earlier, and Mike McCarthy mentioned during the week, he called it a winning formula. And I think Mike, going back to his time in Green Bay, everybody thinks Aaron Rodgers, everybody thinks run the ball or throw the ball a ton. And they have done that at times throughout his tenure here so far with the Cowboys. But if you look back to last season, the first month of the season, they ran the heck out of the ball. I think they averaged 150 yards on the ground that first month and had leads and were salting away games. And that's what they're going to try to do, especially the way this team is built right now. There are some changes on this offense. We've talked about it a lot at wide receiver, some young guys on the offensive line. And one thing Mike mentioned was 30 touches in the ground game. Get the offensive linemen going in a play style where they're off the ball and feeling the game a little bit and not on their heels so much in pass protection. You think about Monday night against the Giants trying to counteract the Cowboys' pass rush, go to tempo and some hurry-up stuff, trying to tire out the Cowboys' defense. So on the flip side, you're trying to play to your defense, win time of possession, keep them fresh, and make things easier on Cooper Rush, and honestly, make things easier on Dak Prescott when he gets back healthy. So 30 carries a game, that's what they'd like to have. a nice mix between Zeke and Tony Pollard, and it could be a winning formula. Let's see if they can keep it going.
You mentioned the defense there, and of course the run game is going to help open things up for them by keeping them off the field. But when they are on the field, they've looked as good as any defense the Cowboys have had in quite some time. Where does this defense rank? I know it's early in the season, still a small sample size, but so far, where do they rank compared to some of the other defenses you've seen throughout your tenure?
I think they're right there in terms of overall depth. I mean, you think about guys that are having trouble getting on the field. That's where I think it's different than teams that I've covered in the past. And honestly, Mike McCarthy talking about he's had some good defenses back in Green Bay in the past. This is as good as he's seen in terms of a defense with depth, speed, and rush ability. And you go back to Monday night against the Giants, Kyle, and 50% pass rush win rate. Like, that just doesn't happen in the NFL. And it helps to have Micah Parsons on your team. But they've got other guys who can get to the quarterback. You talk about the depth of this defense. Donovan Wilson at safety, a guy who doesn't play a lot week one, didn't play a lot last season, really, and he's the leading tackler last week. They've just got a lot of guys at all three levels that can make things happen. Now, the question is, can Washington do a better job of protecting Carson Wentz? You guys touched on that earlier. It is a week-to-week league. You've got to think they're going to do a better job and do whatever it takes schematically to make that work. And they are an offense that is capable of scoring points. You know, they averaged almost 30 points the first two games of the season. Wentz went above 300 passing yards. They are capable. So how do the Cowboys defense, how do they adjust? How does Dan Quinn adjust? And how does the Cowboys run offense adjust as well? Because big guys in the middle for the Commanders are going to try to stop them on both sides. So it's a chess game, and how they adjust will be a big key in week 4
Rob
here.
Phillips joining us here from AT&T Stadium on Pregame Live. Rob, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again next week. The Cowboys getting some help in the receiving game. Michael Gallup makes his return this week. We'll talk about his impact when we come back.
Brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
Stronger?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll be in the weight room. But
a lot of guys that have that injury, they come back and they say they feel stronger than they did, or just better.
For sure. That's definitely what I've been told. After you're done getting your ACL repaired and everything like that, if you come back, do everything you're supposed to do, supposedly it's supposed to be stronger. So I wouldn't say, I necessarily feel stronger now, but I'm pretty sure in due time I will.
What have you not yet felt, or what do you want to feel like you're back to yourself, you're normal, and you're ready to go?
I think I just needed a couple more reps. I've only been in pads twice.
Right.
Everybody else had a whole training camp and everything like that. So I just needed to feel a couple more things out. That was it.
You've played a lot, obviously, with Dak. Where do you think your rapport is right now with Cooper Rush, and how will it be stepping in with him?
I mean, Coop throw a good ball. He throw a great ball. So it's not that hard. You know what I'm saying? Go back out there, just get back in the rhythm. Coop's gonna put it on the money. I'm gonna make him right.
Cowboys pregame live. The Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Commanders preparing for battle at AT&T Stadium. Glad you're with us here from the Star in Frisco with Barry Church and Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Yeomans back with you. Cowboys have a number of inactives that they have on the board today, and a couple of inactives that are notable, but a couple of actives as well. But let's get to the inactives first. Here are the guys that are out against the Commanders. Dak Prescott, no surprise, still coming back from his thumb injury. Jaron Kearse, it was thought he may have been able to return at some point this season. The third one, though, on that list is probably what we're going to have to hit here in a second, and that is Jalen Tolbert, the rookie third-round pick, wide receiver. Now that Michael Gallup is back in the fold, who is not on this list, he is inactive for Jalen Tolbert moving into week 4, third time in 4 games that he is not going to dress out for the Cowboys. So is this concerning about Jalen Tolbert overall when you look at a rookie top 100 pick that still is inactive, or is this just a motion to get Gallup back on the field?
No, I would say this is pretty concerning. Like you said, he's a top 100 pick overall, and those guys are usually slated in there to be, guys that are going to contribute to this offense as soon as they step on the field. And for him not to be able to be active for this game, it's surprising to me because, like I said, he's a top 100 pick, and you would think he would be able to go out there and perform, but he hasn't been able to crack that lineup yet, so it's concerning.
Sound the alarm, Kyle. This is definitely concerning simply because of the fact not only is he a top 100 pick, he's a top 100 pick to an organization that only has 3 solid receivers that you can count on. Most teams have 4, 5 deep, right, out of the 6 that are going to be available on your depth chart. But this team only really has 3. You think about CeeDee Lamb, Noah Brown, Michael Gallup. After that, you have a lot of question marks. So for him not to find a way onto this active game roster, that's a problem.
And Dalton Schultz, Michael Gallup are both back from injury. So that's 2 huge pieces added to the passing game that Jalen Tolbert would have had to compete against for playing time if he were going to be active. So let's talk about those 2 guys. Having Schultz back in the fold is massive just because you give a rotation to the guys like Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot, who played well last week in the win over the New York Giants. But Isaiah, how big is it to have Schultz back in the fold?
Well, it's your franchise player. I mean, let's call it how it is. He's the guy who's been tagged this year. He's the guy that you're going to rely on. He, as we've mentioned before, what he's been for Dak Prescott, he's not going to be any different for Cooper Rush. He is that security blanket. He's a nice, softy, down goose jacket that you put on, and he needs him there as an outlet because I can't imagine that Washington Commanders are going to sit back and simply allow Cooper Rush to have the same continued success that he's had up to date. They're going to throw some curveballs in there. Dalton Schultz is going to be there to catch him.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, Dalton Schultz coming back to this team is definitely a huge boost at that position. I mean, like you said, he's that security blanket for all these quarterbacks out there that want to dump the pass down if they're under pressure. So him being in that lineup is going to be huge. I know he's not the best of blockers, but he's a try-hard guy, and he'll get the job done. And when it comes to route running, he's one of the better route runners that we have on this team. So to have Dalton Schultz back as that security blanket, it should be huge for this offense.
You guys have one of those blankets, right? That you
you
love to curl up in.
The
weather's starting to change, temperatures starting to drop, but the Cowboys trying to heat up in terms of Cooper Rush in the passing game, and that involves Michael Gallup back for the first time since a torn ACL during the Week 17 matchup with the Cardinals last year. He's now back into the fold. What kind of workload do you anticipate from Gallup today?
I'm assuming that him being active on today's roster and him not trying to work his way into it last week, I would imagine they're going to just throw him in there and let him see what he can do. They're hoping that what happens to him doesn't turn out to be what happened to Russell Gage in game 1. I think that's what caused him hesitation to come back last week.
Godwin too.
In Godwin, right? So, yeah, exactly. That's Godwin. So hopefully he can come back. He can be healthy. They're going to have to respect him when he steps on the field.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. I don't expect this game plan to change much out there with Michael Gallup being there just because he's first game back from his torn ACL. So I expect them to kind of ease him in there, get him acclimated to this offense. I would say this, though. Those routes that we saw Noah Brown running in those first 3 games, I could see Gallup kind of sliding into that role while he's on the field just to help him get further acclimated to this offense. But having Michael Gallup back in the fold should be a huge bonus for Cooper Rush in this offense.
He's a deep threat that Cooper Rush could throw the football to, something that the Cowboys haven't necessarily had in the deep part of the offense. Now, on the defensive side of the football, how does Micah Parsons feel? He played through an illness last week, did not have a sack, but how can he get back into the sack category against Washington when we come back?
I mean, Jason's helped me so much in my progression. Like, I don't know what to say because he's molded me in a lot just in the short time that he's been here. He's helped me progress my game. What I feel like is light years from where it was. Not necessarily in anything I'm doing, but just my mindset and how I think about the things I'm doing. Like, he's been doing it so long. Like, he knows. I wouldn't say shortcuts, but he knows how to explain it in such a way that makes it pretty simple. And like he limits like my job responsibility. Like, it's complex in its execution, but like when you put it in the basic parts, like you're gonna put yourself in the best position to win every play.
But also speaks to your future and how well you're playing that this future Hall of Famer is being used to guard and attack. I mean, that tells you that what they think about what you're doing.
I mean, it's flattering, but we're not where we need to be yet. It's like there's a lot of season left. I gotta get better than I am. I'm just not where I want to be, and so the future is bright. We're gonna take it day by day.
Cowboys pregame live here from the Star in Frisco. Micah Parsons in week 2 became just the 4th Cowboys defender to ever have 2 multi-sack games to start the season. Last week though, he was held out of the sack category against New York. He dealt with an illness, but what's his mindset and how does he feel this week against the Washington Commanders? Haley Sutton has more from AT&T Stadium.
Well, he's quickly becoming the face of this Dallas defense, some even referring to him lovingly as the Dak of the defense. And Micah Parsons is showing no signs of slowing down ahead of this Week 4 matchup against the Washington Commanders. And if you thought that last week's lack of stats meant anything, don't forget, nothing is more dangerous than an uncaged lion.
The name of the game is execution. You got to execute regardless. Well, are we going to get the same Commanders? No. The Commanders might play us differently than they play the Eagles. Different game plans. So, I mean, it's a completely different game.
Micah Parsons has never felt the pressure, but certainly has no problem applying it.
It's not the first time we've been through adversity. My rookie year, we've been through adversity. It's just another test, you know. When things get tough in the 4th quarter, when things get tough in maybe the 2nd quarter, we know what it's like. You know, if someone goes down, we know what it's like. That's the adversity. That's the, you know, the resiliency, the grit that you need to get you to that Super Bowl, to get you that playoff win.
Through his first 2 games this season, he tallied 4 sacks along with 9 tackles. He's the 6th Cowboy since 1982 with at least 5 multi-sack games in his first 20 career appearances, joining an elite and unique group of players.
I think you guys all know the competitor that he is. After being sick, coming out on practice, even that kind of energy, you know, felt like the kid at Christmas. All right, settle down here, all right? We got to go to practice, you know. Like, at the end of it, he did a really good job of pushing himself to get ready to play.
We've just been relentless. I mean, we understand the play style. We understand how to feed off each other. This is 2nd year, and we're not making first-year mistakes anymore. And we've been prepared since camp to have the best defense.
And while he didn't light up the stat sheet in the Cowboys' 23-16 win over the Giants on Monday, he's facing a Commanders quarterback who's all too familiar with hitting the turf. Carson Wentz sacked a whopping 9 times by the Eagles last week. And after a week where Parsons was without one, Wentz better buckle up.
Hey, I can't tell you I'm going to go out there and get a sack every week, you know. But, you know, if I could say that I'm not going to have a sack and we still have 5-6 sacks, that's a great night.
What sophomore slump, am I right? Micah Parsons on pace for 22 sacks this season if he keeps on this same route, and he's already being talked about as Defensive Player of the Year candidate as well. We will see what he does against this Washington Commanders offensive line and Carson Wentz. But for now, here at the field, I'm Haley Sutton. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Haley. And despite no sacks in week 3, Micah Parsons still very much so in the conversation as a sack leader in the NFL, just behind Alex Highsmith, a former 3rd-round pick out of Charlotte, up there at the top of the list. But then he's tied with guys like Khalil Mack, Nick Bosa. Pretty good company,
that's good. Yeah.
I think you would say, for Micah Parsons. He had 13 sacks a year ago as a rookie, and just like Haley just said, no such thing as a sophomore slump, at least to start the year. How many sacks can he have today against a team that's already allowed 15 sacks in Washington?
And last week, Washington allowed 9 sacks to the Philadelphia Eagles out there. And I believe the front 7 for the Dallas Cowboys is better than what Philadelphia has out there. Now, in saying that, I believe Washington, their offensive line, they have some pride about them. And the way they got spanked last week, I mean, that's embarrassing. So I think they'll make things a little bit tougher for Micah Parsons and the crew out there. But I still believe Dan Quinn can squeeze at least 4 sacks out of this defense and against Washington or Wentz out there.
Carson Wentz is losing confidence by the second. I mean, every time you line up on the field, first week is 1, next week is 5, last week is 9. They're not going to let that happen this week. I think the Cowboys will come away with maybe 3-4 sacks, so they're going to try to run that ball this week.
Yeah, keep it on the ground, grounded, pounded. It's the first time since 2017. This is my favorite stat of the entire week. First time since 2017 that the most sacked quarterback in the NFL has faced the team with the most sacks entering that week. The last time it happened was 2017, Week 13. It was Jacoby Brissett and the Indianapolis Colts facing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Saxonville.
Old Saxonville.
Barry Church was on that defense for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They sacked Jacoby Brissett 4 times in that ball game. Expect something similar for the Cowboys. Cowboys going to try and keep Cooper Rush off the ground. Jason Peters is a big problem for that. And for defenses, how much does he play this week? We'll tell you right after this.
The mix between you and Tony, what does that do to a defense? How they're using you guys as a tandem?
One, it keeps both of us fresh. You know, I mean, I think that's a big thing. And two, is two different running styles. You gotta prepare against it. You know, you get used to one running style. Now here come the other guy, and I think it's been working pretty well.
On your big run up the sideline, when you watched that play over, were you surprised at all in Tyler's speed in front of you?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say I was surprised, but I mean, dude's a beast. I mean, he just got all the physical attributes, and he got the heart with it. So, I mean, he's going to be a hell of a player. I mean, he already is pretty good.
How important has the play action aspect of the offense been, and why has it worked so well with Cooper in there?
I mean, it's super important, but I think it works so well because we've been running it. You know, when you run the ball effectively, efficiently, that defense is going to start hunkering down in there. They're going to start, getting nosy with their eyes, and, that opens up, that play action game.
Did you come up with the Cooper clutch tag?
No, it wasn't me. I want to say it was Big Bo, but it wasn't me. Somebody on the sideline said it.
Zeke, up there they call it Dallas Week. Nobody calls it that here. Is this a rivalry game with you, the way it is for them? How do you feel about it?
Oh, it's definitely a rivalry game. Every time we play Washington, they're going to bring it. You always have a tough defense, root around that D-line. We built ourselves off the O-line. They built themselves on a D-line, and so, it's always going to be a good matchup.
Cowboys Pregame Live was brought to you by AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of the Dallas Cowboys. SWBC Mortgage. Join the more than 120,000 customers that we've helped to find their happier way home. Visit swbcmortgage.com to find a pro today. And by NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full and condensed game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl.
Wrapping things up here on the television side of things of Pregame Live, back here with Isaiah Stanback. And Isaiah, you really have been a proponent of getting Jason Peters in the ballgame. He had 14 snaps last week. How many does he have today?
I need them to at least double it up because you saw the immediate impact that they had when as soon as they put him in the game. Tony Pollard saw him back there. He said, oh, give me 46 yards. They need more of that coming up.
And he blocked for a big-time run for Zeke, too.
Yep.
Definitely made an immediate impact. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the wide receivers for Washington. What does Washington bring to the table on DallasCowboys.com? But that does it for us on the television side of things. Go to the internet side. We've got you for another 15 minutes. Go join us. Pregame Live, Cowboys, Washington, coming up at noon.
It's been 3 games since you've had that wide receiver number 1 stamp on your back. How much pressure has that been? And now coming off that spectacular one-hand catch, how much does that help lift some of that weight off your shoulders?
The weight is always going to be there. I feel like making that catch isn't going to lift anything or do anything, as for my position. But most definitely happy that it happened, in my first touchdown of the season. And I was able to celebrate it with the guys.
Going off of that, what have you learned from how different it's been these 3 games, kind of being a premier guy of focus? When you think back to OU, you got Hollywood and Mark Andrews. Here you got Amari and Michael Gallup. How different has it been now that you've experienced kind of being the guy of focus?
It's been different. It's been quite, the experience, I guess. Just kind of trying to figure out what the defense are giving us and how they're kind of playing me. My junior year of college, it was kind of, the same thing, just kind of trying to find an opening and just create, more opportunities for the other guys that's on the field with me. So it's not really just all about me. If the focus is on me, that's fine. I know my other guys that are definitely going to, step up to the opportunity and go score a touchdown.
Cowboys Pregame Live rolling on here from the Star in Frisco in the Globe Life Studios. Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Glad you're with us. And if you are still joining us, we consider you friends.
There we go.
This is the first time all year long that we've had a television show, and then we lead into the online stuff. It's a little bit different. We know from your viewing standpoint, there's more breaks and a little backup. But this is the good stuff. Just so you know, every week we are on the internet side of things, no matter what. So keep that in mind. We're glad you're here with us. But let's talk about some of the main storylines so far. Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz, both available for the passing game for the Cowboys. But Washington has some passing game of their own. Oh, yeah. And you look at some of their wide receivers and what they've brought to the table this year. Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, and then scary Terry McLaurin. Not the biggest wide receivers you've ever seen, but they've put up big numbers throughout their career, Barry. And how tough are they to stop, and what kind of challenge do they bring to the table?
Well, I don't really understand the philosophy of having, all three of your starting receivers around the same height. I don't really get that. They're all kind of slot-built guys, but these guys do present some issues out there. I mean, they're all three extremely quick. They're great route runners, and they're really elusive, so they're great against press coverage. And we've seen those type of receivers give our defensive backs trouble in the past. So our DBs, they can't sleep on this group of receivers out there. But to me, I just don't see Wentz having enough time back there to let these routes develop and take advantage of any mismatches that they may think they have.
And BC, you know better than anybody. It's heart over height. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter how tall you are. It's all about the amount of separation they can create. But to these guys' credit, okay, these guys present a problem because they're different in all three fields, okay? Targets, one receiver is leading. Receiving yards, another receiver is leading. And then touchdowns, the third one is leading. So you can't target in on one guy. You have to respect them all equally. But you know who the best one is. Scary Terry, baby.
Ooh, okay.
You know what? Now, I don't know nothing about no receivers, so I'm going to have to refer to these guys. I just believe that if you get your hands on somebody, when I had a quick defensive lineman, I just lay hands on him. So I'm asking the Cowboys DB, lay hands on him.
Bless him, huh?
What are you talking about? You don't know how to get up there and get up at the line of scrimmage?
No, that quick release going to hurt me.
Oh, you think so? Okay. Yeah. I would pay to see that happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, even in Nate Newton's prime, I would 100% want that to happen overall. This is a Cowboys offensive line, though, that's going to have some challenges against this Washington front seven. We mentioned Jason Peters very briefly at the end of the television segment, Isaiah, but you've been very adamant about him being in the fold. He had 14 snaps last week. Should he be the full-time left guard and somebody that you could rely on consistently now that we're a couple weeks into his tenure as a Cowboy?
Absolutely. Why would you not? If you're going to go out there and you're hungry, we know what Zeke likes to eat. The best thing that he can eat is a Tyler Biadasz sandwich. The Tyler Biadasz sandwich is going to be on each side of him. You're going to have a piece of Pro Bowl bread. Okay, you're going to have a Jason Peters bread on one side, and you're going to have a Zach Martin on the other side. And you put Tyler Biadasz in the middle, and that's good eating right there. That's exactly what you want up there, whether he's blocking for the running game or blocking for the passing game. You got 16 Pro Bowls between the two of those guys. Leave them in the inside.
But he forgot we got a zinger in there, because that Conor McGovern, man, he's your starter. This kid Peters will get some reps, but Conor McGovern's your starter. So we're going to have to down block, pull around. We got to get people in open space. A power game with Peters, confusion game with the other guys. That's how you got to play this.
And McGovern is active today, so keep that in mind moving into it. He may not see a ton of snaps. Mike McCarthy said earlier in the week he still needs to get back up to speed, gain speed. But if he's active, he may be the starter. Who knows whenever that first start comes around. But we mentioned the Washington front seven. There are some guys up front. No Chase Young, but they do have these two, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen. You may even see Big John Ridgeway, Cowboys draft pick, at some point throughout this ballgame. He has to be active at least today because he was picked up off of waivers. But what kind of guys... how can these guys challenge your offensive line? Because your confidence level, the Cowboys' offensive line has wavered over the last couple of weeks. It's probably up now. What is it this week against Payne and Allen?
Look, these two are big Bama boys in the middle of the field. They stuff all that interior run game up right there. Not only that, but they got the best of both worlds because they can get to your quarterback as well. So to me, it's going to be a task for this offensive lineman. You talked about the Pro Bowl sandwich. Those guys are going to have their hands full with these two because they got to control them. If they can control those two guys, they can control the run game. And we've seen that balanced attack. It works great for this Cowboys offense.
Well, I'm going to defer to our Pro Bowler, okay? Because we already talked about the Pro Bowl sandwich. So, Nate Dogg, tell him about it.
Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, both of these are the Bama boys. Both of them were first-round picks. They by themselves can control games. If they play as a unit and play in their gaps, it'll be hard for us to run the ball. That's where Peters come in. I would like to see Peters in there because they can come downhill and mash these guys so they can run a draw play and he can throw one of them out of the way. We're going to have to control those guys in order to have a successful running game.
Cowboys have only allowed one sack in each of the last two games, and they rushed for 170 yards last week against New York. So they're going to look to try and continue some of that success that they've had against Cincinnati. Cincinnati and against New York this week against Washington. But with the healthy offensive line, with the healthy Ezekiel Elliott and a Tony Pollard, there's a running back duo back there that is as strong as any in the NFL. One of just 5 duos with 170 scrimmage yards and a touchdown this season between Zeke and Pollard. What is your expectation for the rushing attack against that front seven?
I need them to continue to lean on them. Continue to lean on Zeke, continue to lean on Pollard. I like that balanced look that they got going, kind of like a thunder and lightning, kind of what we saw last year. I love Zeke grinding the defense down to a hole, and then you got Pollard over there being able to bust up the seams and his explosive self out there. So continue to lean on those guys, but like Big Nate said, you're going to have to control those 2 Bama boys in the middle in order to do that. I expect this offense to lean on the ground game heavy this afternoon.
I hope so. And I think that, personnel-wise, I think we have more than what you need to be effective in the running game. It just comes down to, can Kellen Moore fight his bad spirits of wanting to throw the ball all the time? And I think if he can commit to it, I think these guys are going to have more than enough success.
I think Kellen's going to put the team first and not his ego, and these guys will run the ball. And I'm not saying you have to run it every down, but that 45, 60, that's what we need, 65, 45, somewhere in there. We'll be okay.
Pollard, 28 carries, 156 yards, and a touchdown. He also has 6 receptions for 69 yards. Zeke, 40 carries this year through 3 games, 178 yards and a touchdown of his own. So very similar stat lines between the two. We'll see if they can continue that balance going up against Washington. But Washington has a duo of their own in the backfield to keep in mind as well. You look at Antonio Gibson, probably the main tailback. He's the workhorse, a short yardage back who comes in and leads the NFL with 6 goal line touches this season, 2 touchdowns. The only 2 rushing touchdowns for Washington have come from Gibson. And then J.D. McKissick, who provides a changeup. He's only had 9 carries for 25 yards, but 16 receptions for 106. So when there is a tailback 1-2 punch out of the backfield, one as a ball carrier, the other one as a receiver, Barry, how tough is that for a defense to keep in mind?
It's extremely tough. I mean, like you said, Gibson, he's been able to do damage to this Dallas Cowboys defense in the past. I know his numbers aren't right where they were a couple years ago, but this is an explosive back. He and J.D. McKissick bring challenges to this Dallas defense. But to me, the key is you got to win on 1st and 2nd down. If you win on 1st and 2nd down and keep these guys in long 3rd down distances, you kind of limit what these running backs can do. And if they're able to do that, I think this defense can find success.
That's a great point. You heard it from the defensive player himself. These guys need to be able to be controlled down to one way of playing, and that goes to winning on 1st and 2nd down. Gibson doesn't give a dog on what his stats were prior to playing the Dallas Cowboys. He loves playing against the Dallas Cowboys, and he's had a ton of success over the most recent years. McKissick, he is going to be more active in today's game than he has been in previous games, simply because of the fact Dallas Cowboys linebackers are not the best at covering. Oh, and by the way, they've been heating up the quarterbacks. So they're going to try to get him out there to try to hold these guys back a little bit.
Coach Rivera in the early part of the week challenged Scott Turner, the offensive coordinator. We got more than just wide receivers. We got McKissick and we got Gibson, and they want them to throw him the ball. They want them to handle the ball. So I look for these guys to get some serious work this week.
Yeah, I think both of those guys, you mentioned it earlier, in trying to protect Carson Wentz, one way to do that is run the football and use your tailbacks, use your offensive line to try and get into a rhythm early. I think both teams are going to put it on the ground through that first quarter quite a bit. We'll see how it develops from there. Let's go back out to AT&T Stadium. We're here on Pregame Live. We're now joined by Cowboys COO Stephen Jones and Nick Eatman.
Thank you, guys, and I'm here with Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer here. AT&T Stadium getting ready for the Cowboys Commanders. Never said that before. What new uniforms they look like over there. What do you think about the Commanders and what they might bring to the game here on this afternoon?
Well, anytime you think of Washington, you think of a lot of great football games, a lot of rivalry, a lot of emotion, a lot of competition, and as we all know, when you play an NFC East game, you throw any records out the window, you throw anything you want to try to handicap, it goes out the window, because we know we're going to get their best shot, and hopefully vice versa. But we are looking forward to this. Certainly their uniforms are popping out here, and I'm sure they're ready for their new chapter, but we look forward to a great game today.
They gave up 9 sacks last week. They're giving up the most sacks in the NFL. You guys have got the most sacks in the league. Is this one of those things where just pour it on, to see if they could block, what Micah Parsons and D-Law and those guys could do, or do you think there might be a different approach?
No, I just think we got to keep doing what we've been doing, which is, Dan's got this defense playing at a high level. The play temperament's just, I know, right where he wants it. I think the only thing that sticking in his craw a little bit is we got to turn the ball over. Right. And I think that comes with the type of pressure we're getting I think good things are going to happen as long as we keep getting after that passer. I know Micah's ready for a big day. He was coming off a little illness last week, but in general, I know our defense will be cranked up, ready to go. Dan's done such a great job with them, and then offensively, keep doing what we've been doing, getting a rhythm early, run the football, and don't turn the ball over.
You said run the football. I'm going to ask you about the offensive line. You've got Connor McGovern that's active now. You have Jason Peters who's going to expect to get a little bit more. Farniok has played. What do you expect is going to happen there at that guard spot?
Well, that's the good thing is that we're having guys come back, and that's helpful. Dalton Schultz will be back today, but I think Connor will start it off out there and make sure he's feeling good, and we'll see where we go from there. But certainly it's nice to see Peters in there last week as well. Getting some good reps for us. As we all know, continuity is a big thing in the offensive line, but this day and time in our league, you got to have the depth, and you got to have the players, and certainly I think, this first 2 or 3 weeks forced us to do that, and I think that'll pay off for us.
All right, real quick, what do you want to see out of Michael Gallup? Big plays? You want to see him just kind of run through the offense, get a few snaps, or you expecting big things?
Well, I always love a big play now. I mean, that's what you hope for, right. But certainly that's what Michael's been all about in his career. I know Brett Brown's done a great job of bringing him along the right way, and we'll just see what the day brings.
All right, let's keep this winning streak going. That's Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer. Guys, we'll throw it back to you.
Very much, Nick and Steven from AT&T Stadium back here as we wrap things up on Cowboys Pregame Live. Now, this is throughout the week. It feels like Cowboys Nation, this is an easy win. A lot of people have it as an easy win. It's never the case in the NFC East. Those games don't go like that whenever you have rivalries like this, especially Washington. Keep in mind, prior to their blowout loss last week against Philadelphia, they had 27 points per game and nearly 395 yards per game. So keep that in mind. Prior to last week, they had the offense rolling. They're going to look to get back on track, and they're in a bit of desperation mode themselves. So keys to the game for the Cowboys to not have an upset, to avoid that upset today.
I'm looking offensively, and Kellen Moore, I need you to continue doing what you've been doing, leaning on that ground game. You're helping set up the play-action pass. Cooper Rush has done an amazing job of executing your game plan, so stick with it. Don't get outside yourself. Stick with it. Stick with this ground game and collect these W's.
I'm with you. Don't let Kellen Moore get too greedy. Don't get so excited because Michael Gallup's back and you have some more of your Legos that you could play with. Stay within your scheme. Do what you've been doing, and you have to extend drives. You have to win on third down because this Washington Commanders defense is at the top of the league in terms of getting guys off the field on third down.
Keep them penalties down. You got to. They got a physical enough defense where they're going to have some great plays. But keep your offensive line penalties down, and a dose of terpene would be nice.
If you can take advantage of those things all the way through, this should be a win for the Dallas Cowboys. No doubt about it. I think all of us up here agree this should be a win. You just cannot beat yourselves with the penalties and with some scheme. That's the biggest thing right now is the Cowboys getting some healthy personnel back. That could play a huge dividend at AT&T Stadium today. It's a noon kickoff on Fox. Hope you'll enjoy the game. For Barry, Isaiah, Nate, I'm Kyle, and our entire Dallas Cowboys crew. Thanks for joining us on Pregame Live. We'll see you after the game, everybody.